we've got so much to talk about today. This keeps coming up. We did a webinar on health a while back, and there was a huge response to it. I was so happy because that was supposed to be the one that you were on, and then we jumbled the schedule. Sorry about that, but we're really happy to have you this time. Lots of good stuff to talk about. So why don't we first talk a little bit about you?
Sure, yeah. Thank you. So, yeah, you got my name pretty much right. So it's
okay, I kind of dragged it out at the end. But...
which is good, you know, that's how we do in French. So yeah. It's a very French name, Loichot. This is where I come from. I've spent the first 30 years of my life there until I moved to the United States in 2000. I am a member of the West Side Professionals here in West Seattle. I've been a member for 2 years in that great chapter. I mean, it's really, I love this community. You were mentioning earlier, people, you know, are very close together, and it's a really active and dynamic chapter. So I am, yes, a health and wellness coach, certified by the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaching. And I have my practice here. I started with coaching in 2002, but I only opened my own practice 4 years ago here in West Seattle. And I coach virtually and also in person. And my mission is really to help busy adults establish healthy lifestyle, lose weight, and most importantly, prevent type 2 diabetes. And doing that without having to give up the foods they love and the lifestyle that they enjoy, the hobbies they enjoy. So that's pretty much about me.
Okay, that sounds great. So before we get into the presentation, if you have a comment, you can always put it into the chat, and if you have a specific question you'd like Stella to answer, please put it in the Q&A section. All right, here we go.
All right, so let's start, you know, with what we hear all the time. We need to be healthy, we need to eat healthy, we need to move more. We hear that all the time. And I'm not going to focus today on why it is important, because you know that already, otherwise you wouldn't be here today. Thank you, by the way, for being here. What I'm gonna do is try to give you strategies on how to make that happen, even though you're super busy and have a lot of other things to struggle with or juggle with in life. So the very first thing, and that is key, is that most of the time we hear that we need to focus on healthy eating and physical activity. But what we don't hear very often is that we also need to focus on stress management and sleep, because those are really two key pillars of wellness. Stress is directly linked to a weaker immune system, heart attacks, strokes, infections, low energy. So it's something to really take into consideration. And sleep is directly linked to, or lack of sleep actually, is linked to type 2 diabetes, weight gain, depression, addiction. So those are two that we don't want to forget, and we're going to address them today for sure. So the very first pillar of wellness that we very often think about is eating well. So it's not necessarily easy, right? Because there's a lot of information out there. It can be pretty confusing. So I just want to tell you what the best diet is actually for health. So the best diet is a diet first that works for you. So it's not your neighbor's diet. It's not your mom's diet. It's really the diet that you will be able to integrate into your life. So that's very important. And then more scientifically, the best diet has been defined by the Prevention Research Center at Yale University as being a diet of minimally processed foods, close to nature, predominantly plants. And there are a few things that are very important here. Is the minimally processed food. So we want to eat foods that really look like food. And the second super important word is predominantly plants. It doesn't have to be all plants. Like it's, you know, the best diet, it's something that works. So you don't have to go vegan right away, you know, like it's just trying to eat more plants. That's key. The second tip I would like to give regarding diets is try to stay away from extremes most of the time. And unless you have a specific, you know, health condition, it's usually better to avoid diets that remove an entire food group from your food intake. You want to make sure that it's a balanced diet with a lot of food. Variety is very important, because when you eat a good variety of foods, you can give your body a huge variety of nutrients, and that's key to good health. And the third tip I'd like to give you is try to focus on adding the good foods, rather than always focusing on removing what you think is the wrong food. What happens when you start adding the good food, and I would say, you know, mostly plants, so when you start adding more vegetables, fruit, beans to your diet, those foods take room. They take room in your plate, they take room in your stomach. And so very naturally, when you add more of those in your diet, you start eating less of the foods that are not so healthy for you. So that would be three ways to just focus on food to eat healthier in your life. So on the next slide, I'm going to just give you a bonus tip, which is maybe change your plates, buy new plates. When I first moved to the States in 2000, one of the things that shocked me was the size of the dinner plates. They are huge. They're like 12 inches wide, and those we use in Europe as like decoration to put our plate on. And so if you can pick a plate that's about 9 inches in diameter, it's going to be bigger than a salad plate, because you don't want to feel like you're eating nothing. You don't want to feel deprived, right? So having a plate that's a reasonable size, but about 9 inches in diameter, 9, 10, and always cover half of it with vegetables. This way, the rest, whatever you eat on the other part of the plate, is just going to be half of your plate. When you cover the whole plate, you know, with pasta, or which can be really delicious, but it's a lot of pasta. If half of your plate is covered with vegetables, and potatoes don't count, real vegetables, right? Like greens and that kind of stuff, it can be lettuce, then you're going to really reduce the amount of food that might not be the healthiest for you, which is the meat, the starch, that kind of stuff. And when you go for seconds, which is totally fine, you don't want to feel hungry, right? When you go for seconds, you do the same. You cannot have seconds of the main dish if you don't have seconds of the vegetables. So that's a little rule that you can try to implement that will make it easier for you to eat more vegetables, more plants in your diet. Okay, so that was for the food, for the healthy eating. Now let's move to moving. We need physical activity, right? So one thing to really keep in mind is that physical activity is not necessarily workout. Like you don't necessarily have to go to the gym, or you don't necessarily have to do 1 hour of push-ups or whatever. Being physically active in your daily life is an amazing way to really burn more energy, keep your, all your joints healthy, stay strong, stay balanced. I have worked with many clients who have been very, very sedentary. And when they start, walking again, they realize, oh my gosh, it just feels awkward. I don't have balance anymore. It just, so when you make sure that your daily life is active, it's this is going to have a huge impact on the way your body feels and on the way you are going to age and on your energy level. So this is something that's extremely important. And I have a quick story. I don't know. When I first moved to Seattle, I signed up at the YMCA before I even had a house. And I would go there every single day, taking my two kids in a little trailer because I was riding my bike there. And I would go there five times a week, but I would only swim once a week. And the rest of the time, I would just take a shower, have coffee there, and then come back home. And I was kind of the lazy member who was haunting the halls, as they were calling me. But actually, my workout was to ride my bike, carrying my two kids in the trailer to the YMCA, and then ride it back from the YMCA. And if you know Seattle, you know the hills, right? And that was enough. It was like a 30-minute workout that I was able to do every day because I don't really like to work out per se. So this is really, but it was, I mean, if you count, it adds up, right? So that's one thing. So if you want to introduce more physical activity in your daily life, one way to do that is really to just try and bump up a little bit everything you're doing already. So if you're sitting at your desk or sitting right now in front of that webinar, well, maybe the next step is to just stand up. And that's already more movement. Like I'm standing here, and as you can see, I'm moving along. But this is already a step up, right? Standing is better and it's more physically active than sitting. If you're used to driving when you run errands, maybe you can try to walk, or at least part of it, right? Maybe park further away, that kind of little improvements. If you're used to watching TV at night and you're sitting on the couch to relax, well, it's great to relax, but maybe you could also, watch TV on a bike trainer or even on a treadmill, and just that's extra movement. And that's much easier to integrate into your busy life because it doesn't really take that much extra time. It doesn't take time to stand up. It doesn't take time to be on the treadmill while you're watching TV. And walking can actually be faster than driving because you don't have to park. And that's something to keep in mind. The third tip I would mention is if you decide to work out, like really work out, have a specific fitness program, make sure that you have a good reason, a good reason to do it, you have it, right? You want to be healthy, but make sure you want to do it, that there's something that makes you want to do it, whether it's, meeting a buddy, maybe it's having time for yourself. Maybe that's the only time you're alone and away from the kids or from work. Maybe that's when you listen to podcasts. Maybe you love how you feel afterwards, but it's important that you identify what it is that makes you want to do it for when you're not motivated. And if you cannot identify anything, I would really encourage you to try and find something. When I first started working out, like swimming, it was just because that was the only way for me to have my kids in a daycare center for an hour. That was my motivation, to just have 1 hour of a break from my children. So it might not be, the most laudable motivation, but that was mine. And that kept me going for a while. And now I'm a swimmer. So just think about that. Okay. So little bonus tip for those of you who want to start maybe walking places more instead of driving. Pretend you're late. Pretend you're always late wherever you go, because then you're going to walk faster. You're going to elevate your heartbeat. It's going to be a little workout, and nobody will think that it's weird. You're just late. Like there are people who are late all the time. So just pretend you're late so that you turn what could be a stroll into a fast, a brisk walk. And doing that adds up really to a lot of movement over the course of a day and a year. And 10 years for sure.
I don't usually
Okay.
have to pretend. I'm just usually late, so this is good.
Yeah, that's perfect. No pretending necessary. Okay, so we covered healthy eating, we covered physical activity, and now we're going to go into sleep and stress. And we're going to combine them because they have a lot in common. Stress is one of the reasons why so many people struggle with insomnia, and being sleep deprived is also a huge source of stress. So we're going to handle them together. Um, the very first thing when it comes to managing stress that I would like to emphasize is that we have a lot of stress, like a lot of reasons to be stressed, right, in our lives. And very often, what we do is we just try to release the stress by, doing meditation, relaxation, a massage, which this is all amazing ways to release some stress, let some stress go. But one thing that we need to do is really go at the source of the stress, because you can only release so much stress with a 10-minute meditation session or with an amazing facial, right? So it's very important to not go into that mindset where we just assume we're stressed and there's nothing really we can do about it. And it's all like this big stress ball that belongs to our life, and we don't really know where it comes from. So it's important to take the time to sit down and really identify the reasons for our stress. Once you have identified them, then some of them you can act on them. Some of them you can't, but some of them you can. I know that I am extremely stressed if I'm late. That really makes me super stressed out. And so I organize my entire life around that to make sure that I'm always early or almost always early, so that this stress is gone. And it's a pretty easy one to handle, and some of them are way harder, but it's really critical to identify why exactly we're stressed and really try to pinpoint where we can take action to reduce that stress. So that's one thing. Another thing that I would love for everyone to consider is to reduce screen time. Screen time is extremely stressful for our brain because it's so many messages overwhelming our brain all the time. And it's also a total sleep killer. So we sometimes think, okay, no, I'm doing good because I don't check my emails, my work emails after dinner. And so this is great. This is a great step. But we need to also really pay attention to us watching the news, browsing on social media when we think that we're kind of relaxing and, checking out what friends are doing. It's actually extremely stressful physically for our brain. And it can really keep you from falling asleep. There are in our eyes, there are some cells that they're not in the eyes for us to see. They're only here to notice the light and the lack of light. So when it's dark, when it's night, if you're on your screen, on your phone screen, doing video games or shopping online in your bed on your phone, those cells in your eyes are going to get the message that it is daylight. It is day. It's not time to sleep. And this message goes to the brain. Then, the hormones that are supposed to be released for sleep are not, and then you cannot fall asleep. So really pay attention to your screen time, and even more so when it's time to go to bed or 2 hours before bedtime, you can really stop all that. Now, the last tip that I would like to give you for better sleep and also stress management is trying to have some kind of a regular schedule for your day. It is very reassuring for your body to know what to expect when it comes to food intake. So having meals at regular times is a huge, has a huge impact on your metabolism and on the way your body is going to feel, whether it's stressed out or not. So having regular meals, trying to wake up and go to bed at a relatively similar time every day, because this allows your to accumulate enough tiredness during the day to be able to sleep at night. If one day, your day is like 12-hour long and the next day it's only 10 hours long because you've slept in and you still want to go to bed at the same time, it's going to be actually pretty hard to fall asleep because your body won't have accumulated enough tiredness that day. So keeping a regular schedule is really key to lowering your stress level, even though you don't really notice that you're stressed because you're eating whenever you can, right? But your body is stressed. And that stress exactly the same. It's the same stress hormones that are released, whether it's your mind being stressed or whether it's your body. So I hope that that makes sense.
It's
Right?
interesting. I have an app. Well, part of my clock on my iPhone tells me about you can set like a schedule for sleep and like wind down time at night. But isn't it a conflict of interest to have the phone on while you're doing it? I don't know, but it's like putting a schedule together and keeping to it makes a lot more sense for your physical relaxation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you bring a very good point when you mention like the conflict of interest, right? The thing is sometimes those apps can help you like become more aware of what you're doing and then help you establish, new rhythms and new ways of doing things, and then you can let them go the app. So it temporarily they can be a good option so that you really notice what you are doing when you go to bed, and then you kind of try out a few things, and then you let go of the apps and the phone because yes, they're interfering with good sleep. So now, if you are struggling with sleep, one thing I really would love for you to try is to completely eliminate alcohol for 2 weeks, just to see what happens, with sleep. Alcohol, we might think that it's going to make, it's going to help us relax. And it does, right? It's a depressant. So it helps you relax, but then it has the second effect. And the second effect of alcohol is really keeping us from sleeping as deep as we would if we didn't have alcohol. And it's dehydrating. So it might have you wake up in the middle of the night to use the restroom, and then you can wake up again because you're thirsty. So really alcohol, eliminating alcohol if you're not sleeping well is the number one thing to do. And even if you're only having half a glass of wine at night with dinner, try eliminating that and see what happens.
So what if you're
Okay.
like 2 glass a night kind of person? What if you cut that in half? Does that help at all, or is it still the same?
So for the sleep, honestly, I would just, instead of doing half, I would do a day every other day, just to really see what happens when you don't drink alcohol at all.
Makes sense.
That's, and sometimes it's an easier way to go, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. Yeah.
So I hope that was not too overwhelming because it's a lot, right, to tackle. But of course, the point here is not to try everything and implement everything, but it's really to focus on one or two things that you want to change, and then only do those. Because the point is not to be perfect and do everything perfectly, right? That would be extremely boring. The point is really to just improve our behaviors so that we are healthier. And I always tell my clients, no goal is too small. So you can always do more after, but always start with set the bar pretty low. And you won't hear that very often, right? But
Yeah.
set the bar low so that you're successful, and then you move to the next step. There is no big rush, no big rush here. So one day at a time, and also look at everything as if it were an experiment, not a goal. Like if you decide to go without alcohol for 2 weeks, it's an experiment. See what you can learn from that, you know? And if it's horrible and you can only go for 4 days, well, it's not you failing. It's just, okay, you learned something about yourself there. So look at it this way. Everything is an experiment, and you'll see what comes out of that experiment. Okay.
Okay, so I'm curious, since we learned so much today, I'm going to have us take a poll and see what we learned. So, can everyone see this poll? Yep, I see some votes coming in, so that's good. What's one thing that you'll implement today? There's lots of different things here that we covered. And one of the things, Stella, I have to say, talking to different people in this field, I think you're giving the easiest path for people who are busy and can't get to the gym or can't, necessarily get the right food at the right time, to really just integrate healthier tips and strategies rather than just completely changing things. So that's hard to stick to.
Yeah, and that's really the key point here. It's just like we're trying to improve. We're not trying to all of a sudden, work out 7 times a week and eat the perfect food. And it's just about improving and also enjoying the process. So making it so that it's enjoyable and feasible.
So if you see the results here, we have lots and lots of people choosing everything here, which I love. Right? Everybody's got at least one tip to take away. So you gave the great information today. And most people said aim for improvement, not perfection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's very, very important, because when we aim for perfection, we of course fail, right? And so we give up. When we just want to improve, we feel so much better about ourselves, and then that we get that momentum going, which is very important and rewarding. And the process, we're here to be happy, right? We're not here to suffer. I mean, that's what I think.
Right. So, okay, so let's now move into Q&A. If anyone has a question, they can put them in the Q&A section, or you can just put any comments right into the chat. But while they're doing that, you've got some things that you offer, and you've got an exciting new book coming out. So why don't you talk about all those things?
Yeah, sure. So first, I might not be able to answer all the questions here, so feel free to email me if you need extra help, or if you want, to ask a question, or if something was not clear. You can email me. My email address is right there. I also offer a free intro consultation over the phone or Zoom. So you can request one also on my website, allonzcoaching.com /let's go, and you'll be able to fill out a little form there and yeah, go from there. And then, yeah, my book, I'm super passionate about sleep, because I used to not sleep. I didn't have time for that. So, and now I've really learned the power of sleep. So my book, the title is Sleep It Off, and it's going to come out in October on Amazon as a paperback and Kindle. And it's really, I think it's a revolutionary guide, honestly, to losing weight and beating diabetes and feeling your best through improved and optimal sleep. So this is going to be like a step-by-step guide with worksheets, and it's I know I've used everything that's in there to help my own clients already. I know it works. So if you want to know, to be informed when the book is released, I encourage you to go to my website, allonzcoaching.com/coming soon, and just sign up, like give me your email, and then you'll receive an email once the book is out. So yeah, that's
Okay.
it.
All right, let's cover a couple of questions. Someone was talking about we're on Zoom more now than ever before, so we're spending more screen time during our work hours. And so any tips on how to kind of recover between meetings from constantly looking at your screen?
Yeah, so the very first thing would be, and that's not really the question, but just if you can stand during your Zoom meeting, if you can make it happen, just put your laptop on a bin or something, or a pile of books. Try to do that, because then you will move more during your meetings. And then, you know, to rest in between meetings, if you can just go outside and take a quick break, or move in your house. If you're stairs, go up and down the stairs, and also then reduce the amount of screen time that you have outside of those Zoom meetings, because most of us spend several hours on the phone, on the TV, etc. So trying to really be mindful and spend less time outside of the Zoom time on the screen.
That's great. And you mentioned going outside. And so Eric says that he owns an indoor air quality company in Houston. And he loves the tips that you gave. And he says that indoor air pollution is on average two to 5 times worse than outdoor air pollution. So it might be worth spending a little bit of time outside the house, just breathing in some fresh air if you're not, you know, in a place that has not good air quality.
Yeah, especially right now, right?
That's what I'm telling you. Yeah, what's going on the West Coast is terrible, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, being outdoor is really, walking outdoor is huge. And there are a lot of studies on that really being outside helps with mental health, physical health. I mean, we're animals, right? We need to be in nature a little bit and outside and see trees in the sky. Yeah.
Monica says she did a complete lifestyle change in May. No alcohol, walking, and eating better, and it's made a huge difference. She doesn't call it a diet. She says it's a quality of life improvement.
Yeah, totally. And well, congratulations for doing that, Monica. And yeah, it's just, and it's impressive. It's incredible the changes that you can notice in your body, in your mind, when you start changing your eating habits and your lifestyle. It's pretty quick. That's the thing. If you don't, if you stick with it, you can see changes within a few weeks. With sleep, it can be like within a few days. So it's really, really important.
Great. A lot of people are talking about the things that you suggested. They love the don't pretend that you're late. Are there any specific vitamin supplements you recommend?
So I am not going to recommend any supplements. First, because I don't have the expertise. I am a health and wellness coach. I'm not certified to recommend any type of supplements. Plus, I am very much focused on whole foods and foods that really are close to nature, which supplements are not necessarily. So I would just recommend that if you are thinking about supplements, I would talk to a healthcare provider, a naturopath, someone who can really give you guidance on the right supplements and the right brands to choose, because there is no regulations. Like, regulations on supplements is pretty bad in this country. So you can have supplements that have nothing in them that is actually on the label, and the other way around as well. So make sure that you talk to someone who is very knowledgeable and who is going to be able to tell you what brand to pick also.
Great. Stacy says, love your whole food approach. You're a wonderful speaker, and I look forward to your book.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, everyone saying great motivation. Let's see. Would you recommend sitting on an exercise ball while doing Zoom?
That could be a very good, yeah, that could be a very good alternative. It's very good to kind of build your core and you're going to get moving more. So everything, like if you're sitting in the chair now, sitting on a ball could be a great step up. Yes, it's a great idea.
You know, Monica is a Medicare certified agent, and she said what triggered her lifestyle change was just seeing how sick people were getting. She
Mm-hmm.
said she's 46 years old and doesn't want to end up like some of her clients. So I think, you know, now, you know, today is the first day of the rest of your life kind of approach, right? And to make a change when you can, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I'm just gonna check. We have something in Q&A here. Um, so it's a busy world today and most businesses have reduced staff, which requires multitasking in order to get work done. How do we deal with this kind of stress? I guess going above and beyond what you already normally are
Mm.
expected to do.
So I would think that one step that I can think of is to take a little bit of time to sit down and really try to eliminate all the tasks that are not necessary. And it's not necessarily at work. Like at work, you might think, okay, like everything is necessary. But then outside of work, what can you eliminate? What can you remove from your life? What meeting can you not attend? What, you know, do you really need to fold the laundry or can you just leave it like this and everybody can pick whatever they want? Like really think about everything you're doing and see what you could stop doing to kind of reduce the overwhelm.
Great. All right, that's our last question. So I want to thank Stella for being on today. This was wonderful. It's well worth the wait. I'm glad you hung in there with us to come on now, and of course closer to your book release. So that works out really well.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yep, thank you. So everyone, give yourself a CEU, and join us next week. We'll be talking about increasing your VCP through leadership, since we've got our new leadership team starting in October. So thanks again, Stella, and everybody for being on. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.